I want to encourage people to play longer chess games online. On Lichess, if you play 30 minutes or longer, they call that classical chess. And I've discovered I'm pretty bad at classical chess. I have a hard time concentrating and analyzing. Sometimes the extra time just makes my mind wander. So I've written myself some advice here. So let's see what I've got. Number one, play the early stages of the game slowly. I don't know about you, but I make a lot of blunders, drop pieces, and I do that more when there are more pieces on the board. So in the opening, early, middle game, there's a lot of stuff going on. So take your time. Number two, don't make any pre-moves in a classical time control game. Nothing should be automatic. Number three, no automatic moves. Like no recaptures immediately. If your opponent takes your piece, don't necessarily assume you have to recapture. There might be some in-between move, some Zwischenzug. Number four, calculate at least two different variations per move. Don't just make the first move that comes to mind. Look at at least two moves and follow them through and see what they lead to. Number five, calculate variations clearly until they are resolved. No guessing. So make sure of your calculations. Double check, triple check, take your time until you think the position has quieted down and you can tell what's going on. So follow through a whole sequence of captures or checks or forcing moves until things are quiet. So calculate your variations clearly. If you find out you're not calculating clearly, if you have a hard time concentrating, then slow down and do it again. Okay, don't move on until those variations have been calculated, even if it takes you 10 minutes. Number six, when you decide on a move, imagine it and make one more check to make sure it's safe. So don't just play the move as soon as you've decided on it. Imagine playing it and ask yourself, oh, am I going to drop any pieces here? Did I miss anything? So make sure it's safe. I'm going to do that every move from now on. So I'm going to say, all right, I'm ready to play Queen E4. Now, should I really play Queen E4? Let me check. What are the responses? I'm going to double check everything. Number seven, in a long time control game, if your rating is high enough, you should have zero dropped pieces. Should never lose a piece just because you didn't see that it could be taken. Okay. I'm at fault for all of these things. I drop pieces, and I'm going to try never to do that again in a classical time control game. Something to strive for anyway. Number eight, zero simple forks or skewers. You shouldn't miss, just like you shouldn't miss a dropped piece, you shouldn't miss a simple tactic like a fork or a skewer. Just keep looking out for those. Tell yourself you're not going to drop pieces, you're not going to miss a fork, you're not going to miss a simple tactic. Number nine, on the other side of the coin, zero missed opportunities for taking a piece or creating a fork or skewer. So if your opponent leaves a piece to be captured, you have to take it. You can't miss that. That's the same as dropping a piece yourself. When you drop one of your own pieces, that's a 3-point swing if it's a minor piece. If you fail to take a piece offered to you, a minor piece offered to you, that's a 3-point swing. It's the same thing. So you can't miss those opportunities either. Number 10, zero accidental stalemates. Never accidentally stalemate. There's no reason for that unless you're down to seconds and it's, extreme time pressure. You can always check. You can always ask yourself, does my opponent have a legal move after I make this move? So imagine it. Just like above when I said, when you decide on a move, imagine it. That will keep you from stalemating. Number 11, when in a tough spot, give it a lot of time. If you think you missed something and you're about to lose a piece or something, or there's some tactic you overlooked and your opponent has you in a really tough spot, don't give up. There might be some hidden resource you just didn't see. I remember playing my only over-the-board tournament where I got my opponent into a really tough spot. It looked like he was going to lose a piece. It was a 60-minute game. I remember he took 25 minutes on that one single move when he realized he was about to lose a piece. All right, number 12, play with an increment when possible. Okay, if you play with a 10 or 20-second increment, then you're less likely to violate all of these rules. A lot of these rules are going to be accidentally violated when you're in time pressure, of course. It's just something to strive for. Keep telling yourself 0 drop pieces, 0 missed tactics, and so forth. And if you play with an increment, you might have a chance at success. All right, with regard to these rules, I wanted to take a look at my last classical time control game I played on Lichess. Oh, and by the way, if you play on Lichess, go to play, go to the quick pairing, and you'll see, if you've never done this before, you'll see there are some classical time controls down here that you can try. I've been playing 30 minutes with no increment. I'm going to try this 30 minutes with 20-second increment in the future. I don't know how many people play that, so I don't know if I'll get partners at my rating level. Sometimes I have to wait a few minutes to get somebody at 30 minutes even, but I have gotten players at 30 minutes. There are people that play classical chess, believe it or not. Okay, so here was my last game. I just want to look at some highlights, some particular positions, not the whole game. So here was a position where it's my move, I'm black, and my opponent is attacking my pawn. So I decided on how to guard it. That was my thinking here. And I realized I could guard it with my bishop. I can guard it with my queen here, 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 or here. Or I can even push it forward to have it guarded by the queen. So I thought about all of that. And I settled on guarding it with my queen to get it off of the e-file. I was afraid of the move f3 coming. My pawn is pinned. So I wanted to move my queen over. And so I decided between these two moves. And eventually I settled on the move queen to d6. And I think I settled on that move to get it off of that e-file, and I chose it over d7 because it allows me to move along this rank more freely. That entire time I was thinking about these things, I simply never considered my opponent's possible responses. So I violated one of those rules. As soon as I thought of queen to d6, I should have asked myself, okay, now is it safe? What can my opponent do? And I think I would have seen my opponent's response, bishop b4 with a skewer. So I missed that. I didn't have 0 skewers in this game, 0 missed tactics. All right, and let's go one move further, because I violated another rule on that list, which says when you're in a tough spot, take a lot of time. There might be a hidden resource. I took very little time here. I pretty much gave up. I said, oh my God, I'm losing this exchange. How can I do this? This is ridiculous. And I didn't think about trying to get out of losing the exchange. I simply tried to think about, okay, I'm going to lose the exchange, so what can I get out of the position as compensation? And I settled on queen to d5, figuring, okay, I'm attacking the queens will trade, and I'll straighten out my pawns before I lose the exchange. Now, if I had followed my advice of taking your time in a tough position, I would have realized c5 was an option. I actually did think of c5, but I immediately dismissed it because there are 2 pieces pointed at that pawn, and I figured, okay, the bishop is going to take the pawn and skewer me anyway. All right, but that's another case of violating another rule, which says calculate the variations thoroughly all the way through to the end until the position is quiet. It's not quiet here. My queen is under attack. So I had to calculate where am I going to move my queen, and I would have seen this. That pins the bishop. So I could have gotten out of that skewer, and I failed to do so. Let's look at a later position in the same game. Okay, white just moved his pawn. He took one of my pawns, and it's my move here. I thought about pushing this pawn to d4 to break up this pawn structure. And my analysis was, my calculation was, d4, c takes d4, rook takes b4, and that's where I stopped. That's not a quiet position when a pawn here is en prise. Okay, I can't stop my analysis in a position that has hanging pieces in it, and I did. Okay, and so I just did not calculate correctly. And as soon as my opponent took that pawn, then I realized it was en prise, and I decided not to capture back, and I protected the pawn instead. Now, it wasn't a terrible outcome, but the point is I just didn't calculate it all the way down to a quiet position. All right, let's look at another position later in the same game. Okay, here it's my move. I'm black. I'm actually winning. And I just want to point out another fault in calculation here. I didn't calculate clearly. I have a discovery, of course. So I should have thought hard about this move. I'm going to go to the analysis board. Should have thought hard about this move, rook to c2, check, attacking that rook. I did consider that, but my calculation was faulty. My calculation was, okay, he's going to take the bishop that's checking the king, and I'm going to recapture, and then he's going to take my rook, and I'm going to lose the game. These pawns are under control. Well, that's terrible calculation. If he takes my bishop, I don't have to recapture. Should be no automatic recaptures. Okay, I should capture this rook. Okay, so my rook isn't hanging. That's pretty easy. You know, I shouldn't be missing that. Now I'm winning. I'm 2 pawns up. So faulty calculation. And let's look at just one more position from the same game. Okay, right here. Now, admittedly, this was in time trouble and I didn't have an increment. But I'm thinking now I would rather lose on time than do what I did in this position. Okay, I played rook to a1. Terrible. I just dropped my bishop. Okay, I'd rather lose on time than drop my bishop in the future, I think. Okay, I just moved automatically, quickly, in time pressure. But that's pretty obvious. Come on. 0 drop pieces. I'm going to go for 0 drop pieces in the future. I'm going to try to get just one classical game in soon with 0 dropped pieces. All right. Well, thanks for watching the video. Hope it helped you like it's going to help me.